right. Hello, everyone. My name is Drell L. Henderson. I am the creator and curator of Black Theater Vinyl Archive on Instagram. And today I will be speaking with Philadelphia director, teacher, mentor, artist, Ozzie Jones. How are you, Ozzie?
I'm excellent.
Fantastic. So, a couple of things first. First, I'm just going to do a really quick bio about Black Theater Vinyl Archive and the interviews section that we're doing now. Black Theater Vinyl Archive was created in 2021 as an opportunity to shape the public record when it comes to contributions of members of the African diaspora. Our contribution to global theater is legion, but often forgotten because so many aspects of what we've created, shaped, and inspired have been scattered to the winds of time. And so once the archive was built, once I had all of these vinyl records about, reflecting the African diaspora in theater and musical theater, I realized that the next question was, well, you have this archive, what happens next? And that's where interviews like this come in, conversations like this. It's very much inspired by the panel conversations as well as one-on-one interviews recorded by the American Theater Wing and to some extent the SDCF podcast series. These interviews are an attempt to put more of our stories in the public record. And so today I'm going to be speaking with Ozzie Jones. Ozzie is someone that I've known for quite some time, coming from Philadelphia, PA. I live in Chicago, but I am from Philly, South Philadelphia, born and raised.
Yeah.
And so I have known of Ozzie Jones since at least 99, which is, for me, a long time. It's not that long a time. And I got a chance to see his work as I was figuring out my artistic voice as a young man. Ozzie was one of the voices. You had Ozzie, you had Walter Dallas, you had a handful of kind of the older black hats that you could kind of look to. And then a few years ago, I directed James Imes's Reverie at Azuka in Philly. And Ozzie was kind enough to come in and work music moments with us and direct. And I can't really convey to anyone who has never been in a space with Ozzie Jones or seen him work, when you're directing a play in Center City, Philadelphia, and that was a dream, and you're sitting in the theater as the director, watching someone that you looked up to working through moments with actors, and there was this moment of like, this is my life.
Oh, that's dope.
This is my real life right now. I have looked up to you for years, and you are one of the reasons why I wanted to do what I wanted to do and why I'm doing what I do. And so as I begin to pull together conversations, you're the second person to say yes.
Oh, word. Right.
So I'm really grateful to have him here, and I'm going to embarrass you just a little bit. I couldn't find a neat bio, but I'm going to read just some of Ozzie's credits, okay? So this is your People's Light bio. So Ozzie directed Hype Man for Interact Theater Company. He received 3 Barrymore nominations. He directed My Father's Daughter at Freedom Theater. We're gonna spend some time talking about Freedom, and the Painted Bride in Philadelphia, which is an art space for experimental work, as well as La Mama in New York. He directed Black Nativity by Langston Hughes at Theater Horizon, and that was an 8 Barrymore nominated production. He directed and wrote South African Nativity, which was performed at Enon in Cape Town, South Africa. He directed Breaking Barriers for First Person Arts at the Philadelphia Theater Company, starring Black Thought from The Root, because, if you're going to work with someone, it might as well be Black Thought. He directed Othello for Theater and the X, and we're going to talk a little bit about Theater and the X, and was a 1-season guest artistic director for Freedom. Directed all 5 productions there that season, including a play that he wrote and directed himself called Kinda Blue. He directed The Meeting, 12 Angry Men, The Last Jimmy, and I'm scrolling down just a little bit. He directed My Black is Crazy, which is a documentary film about violence in youth. It was produced in conjunction with the United States Attorney's Office, and he's currently developing a large series of plays on jazz called The Real Book. And wait, I don't you have like a rock group called Name?
Oh yeah, no, it's a hip hop group called Name.
Oh, a
Yeah.
hip hop group, yeah, called
Yep.
Name. So he's also like a musical impresario. So a man of all trades, a master of all trades, and just one of my personal heroes. And I'm not just saying that because we're here.
Yo, thank you, beloved.
So we're gonna greet and so give some love and have a conversation with the great Ozzie Jones. How are you, Ozzie? Well, I mean, I
Oh
already
man,
know.
that was so nice. Thank you,
Yeah.
beloved.
Yeah, you're welcome, and I meant every word. So my first question is one of my favorite questions, and it really does come from the theater archive, the vinyl archive that I have. I have a partner, Courtney Murray, who is on Instagram, and we do a podcast every month. You're going to be on that podcast email list from now on, where
Word.
we talk about the vinyl albums and, try to talk about them. And so one of the questions that we get all the time is like, is that Black theater? I don't know. Is Big River really Black theater? Like, what is Black theater? And so we're always like, no, we don't think it's Black theater, but it's about the contributions of Black people. All
Okay.
that to say, my first question to you, Ozzie, what is Black theater to you?
Oh man. Man, that's a really interesting question. It's funny. Um, uh, like age is funny, and like especially the passing of time of doing something for a long time changes the answer to questions.
Mm-hmm.
So that's weird because I don't know. Like I know my answer to that question would be significantly different when I was younger than it is now. Um, so really, the idea of what is Black theater is so far from the way I think of it now that it makes the question difficult to answer for me. Because
Okay.
for me, I think when I was younger, I think I had a answer to that that was pretty straightforward. Now, I think it's Black theater if Black people make it. And that's a different question to whether or not it's theater I personally like,
Absolutely.
or if it's theater that I think is quote unquote good for the community or bad for the community. Um, or whether it's something I think I would want to go see or I would want to go teach or that I would love the most. I think when it comes to questions like that Black people that we are harder on each other than any other community is with their own people, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I think we are very quick to um I mean, it's funny, right? It's like, what's this thing people love to say, the cookout, right?
Oh yeah, yeah.
Like we 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 will invite white folks to the cookout just because they know how to Soldier Boy. You know what I mean? Like you watch somebody know a dance that Black people do, and all the comments is like, "You invited to the cookout," whatever the hell that means. And then with each other, we got these like, "Oh, well, you not Black." Like we'll kick each other out of Blackness and we'll invite the whole world into Blackness. You know what I mean? So like
Yeah.
I've reached a point where I feel wary about identifying things that Black people do in that way. You know what I'm saying? Like,
yeah, I do.
I think it's Black theater if Black folks is making it.
Word.
Yeah.
And that's enough.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think that's actually the important point is, and that's enough.
Yeah.
Right. Like, I think that we have this thing where it's like, there's this list of stuff we got to accomplish other than just our existence.
Word.
And like, ain't nobody else doing that to each other but us.
Yeah. Yeah.
So yeah, that's my long way of saying is Black theater, Black folk make it.
No, and I appreciate that. And I also appreciate you kind of working through the process of thinking about it because it's something that shows up. I mean, when you go to college to study theater, and you're African American and the community that raised you, because I didn't spend a whole lot of time there, but the first theater program I was ever a part of was Freedom when I was 7 or 8 years old, very late 80s. And so the culture of freedom, when I think about Black theater, that's those early memories are the first
So
things.
that means you were a kid there. That means you were there when Leslie was there. Leslie Young.
If it was, we were around each other, but I was there for like a semester and some change. I went to a couple of workshops there. And the only person I actively remember is Diane Leslie.
Oh yeah.
She's the only person that I know I remember. And everything else is just kind of blurs and flashes because it was so long ago. But yeah, I know that, Leslie Odom, Erica Alexander, you know what I mean? You have. Now let's talk about Freedom Theater.
Okay.
So, for those of you who don't know, Freedom Theater or the New Freedom Theater is a historically Black rep theater that is based in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. I don't remember the year that it was founded off the top of my head. That's something
1970 something.
I'll make sure to look up in the.
I think it was mid 70s.
But it was a part. The formation of that theater company was a part of a national movement that was happening in America at that time in terms of the establishment of Black theater companies. You've got Negro Ensemble in the late 60s, early 70s. You've got all of the other things. You got the Woody King, God rest his soul.
God rest his soul.
Company New Federal. You got Penumbra. You got, Vinette Carroll's Urban Arts Corps. You got, National Black Theater. You have kind of these Black theater companies that sprung up. And so they produced full seasons. New plays that were already in the canon. A lot of the Negro Ensemble Company's works. If you don't know about the Negro Ensemble Company, we're not gonna do a thing. Just go Google them because that's a lot of history right there, and a lot of the actors that were in the Negro Ensemble until I would argue the generation of like Cuba Gooding Jr., Neil Long, Will Smith. Before that generation, most of the celebrated African Americans that we knew in television and film were from the Negro Ensemble Company.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean? Esther Rolle, Felicia Rashad, Al Freeman Jr., like the stalwart actors. So anyway, so Freedom Theater was this great Black rep theater. It still exists, although now it's primarily a training center. And it's where you came to do Black work. And so I remember creating work. I remember we had to do dance pieces. Everybody danced. Everybody moved. And it was always about like, you're going to work hard and you're going to produce, and you're going to work hard and you're going to be brilliant, and you're going to work hard and you're going to live up to your potential. And you're going to it was always about coming back to the work. And it's funny, when I first learned about Chekhov in college, right? So you go to college, you start learning about all these European ideas. And there's that great quote, I think it's from Three Sisters, of like, I'm here for the work. And I was like, oh, I know what that's like. I know what that means.
Oh, right.
Because when I was 7, I had people going 5, 6, 7, 8.
Right.
No, your chest is lower. Get those legs up. So anyway, and you have a really great history, and it birthed a lot of actors that we just mentioned. So you have a history with Freedom. Can you talk a little bit about how you became acquainted with Freedom Theater and your journey with that organization.
Yeah, well, I got to Freedom as an adult. I went to because I'm not from North. I'm from West. I'm from West Philly.
Okay.
So I went to college at this place called Bates College in Lewiston, Maine. And oddly enough, it's just sort of the way the Lord works. Like, I'm in Lewiston, Maine, and Bates is the college that Benjamin Mays, who was for a long time the president of Morehouse and was Martin Luther King's teacher, he went there. He went to Bates, and Brian Gubble went to Bates. And so I ended up going there. And oddly enough, the leadership of the NEC and of the Black Arts movement was up there for some odd reason. It was like I was in this very white place, but God bless the dead. Buddy Butler was my advisor. The great artist William Popel was my advisor up there. I met Paul Carter Harrison up there. I met Ntozake Shange up there. I met Guyland Kane from the Last Poets up there. I met Bobby Seale up there. I met Douglas Turner Ward up there. I met Woody, God bless the dead, up there. Like, it was just weird. It was like all of them, for whatever reason, were up there all the time. So my understanding of what the theater was, because I was a musician as a kid, I wasn't a theater kid.
I see.
So I got into that because around them, like I met Baraka up there.
Wow.
So in my mind, the theater was them. So I got out of school, I came home, and actually the first theater I went to try to get a gig was Bushfire, because it was around the corner from where I grew up.
Yes, that's West Philly.
And for whatever reason, that didn't turn into anything. And I remember my dad had a meeting at Freedom. And he's like, oh, I didn't even know about it. I never heard of it. And he was like, oh, I gotta go to this thing, this banquet or whatever. And it's a Black theater. Come with me. You can drop off your resume. So I went with him. I dropped off my resume to Miss Jean, who was at the front desk. And I think I was 24, 25, something like that. I was a kid.
Yeah.
And I got a call like 2 weeks later from Walter Dallas. And the time that this happened was shortly after the co-founder, John Allen, had passed.
I see.
And John handed the reins of Freedom to Walter. So I came in, I met Walter, and I think one of the things that made that relationship happen so fast is because when he looked at my resume, it had all of them on it, like Zaki and Sonia and Douglas and Paul. And he was like, do you know all these people? I was like, yeah, because I had just been with them in college. So, and those were all his peers.
Yeah.
So I became his assistant, and then I became his associate, and started directing there. And it became like my the beginning of my career. I mean, I tell people all the time, I wasn't ambitious like that. Like, when I found Freedom, I could have stayed at Freedom. I could have done my whole career at Freedom. And any work on Broadway or in other countries or wherever would have been just me going somewhere for a minute and coming back there. So like my understanding of how to make theater is based upon the model that Bob and John came up with Freedom. Like that model is the model of all of my work. So
That's what's up, and it's beautiful. Just selfishly, personally, it's beautiful to know that that someone whose work I've been working in, like, how does he do it? You're watching someone's work, and to know that it's just another reflective wave of kind of the same energy that put me out into the universe
oh
as
yeah,
I started so
oh
young.
yeah,
And I'll never forget, I went back to teach in my early 20s. And
yeah,
I was looking at the pictures on the wall from 70s and 80s, and pictures with Denzel Washington and all these people.
yeah,
And I hear a voice start talking behind me, and I look up, and it's Johnny Hobbs Jr. For those who don't know, Johnny
yeah,
Hobbs Jr., a great actor who lives in Philadelphia, has lived there for years, and I got to direct him years later at the Walnut in Thurgood, the one-man show. But I just remember,
yeah.
like, oh yeah, that was the picture that was taken, and he starts talking about what that day was like. The picture that I'm looking at, he begins to describe the day. He begins to describe
Wait,
how,
are you talking about the picture with Denzel?
I believe it was the picture with Denzel. It's like a bunch of people sitting around, and they were like talking. But I
Oh, okay,
might
gotcha,
be getting it confused with someone else, because there were a bunch of pictures that were on the wall, and I was kind of just going from one picture to
gotcha.
the next, just kind of sitting inside of the history. But I remember like Johnny Hobbs coming and being like, and he starts talking about like, yeah, they came down from New York that day, and we picked them up at Amtrak, and just
Yeah,
there's so much connective history when Black folks get together, when we have always gotten together, and the ways that we have shown community to each other. New York would come to Philly. New York would go to Boston. Boston would go to Philly. You just said you were like, New York would go to Maine. We found
oh yeah,
pockets of each other. And if you were a name, if you weren't a name, even people
yeah,
who were considered names weren't really working that much. You know what I mean?
oh yeah.
Like, you still had to push and struggle. And so because of that, I don't know, it has a really, really special place in my heart, because I always feel like I'm looking for community, and there was community there. Even if sometimes that community
100%.
got on my nerves, even if that community sometimes, like, I don't really like the way but it was still a place you could go and you were accepted, and you could be
100%.
openly Black. You could never, I'm loud. I come from loud people. I like to laugh loud.
Right.
Uh, you can do that there. So anyway, we don't need to spend a whole lot of time there, but yeah, thank you for sharing that. And that's actually how you got, because I was going to ask, you answered my next question, because I was going to be like, how did you meet Buddy Butler and Paul Carter Harrison and then
Oh
Buddy
yeah,
L? I'm like, are you kidding me? So you actually answered that
yeah.
question.
They were all. I mean, my
They were
first
made.
advisor in college was Buddy. My first advisor in college was Buddy, and my advisor for all the 3 years was William Popel.
Do you have any? I
So
only know about
Popel
William.
probably
Yeah.
had the largest impact on like my aesthetic.
Wow. So again,
Yeah,
for those who don't
like I
know,
learned how to be an artist from Popel.
wow,
Yeah,
wow. Another one we lost a
like
few
he
years
was
ago.
my thesis advisor. Yeah, he was my brother. He just passed recently as well.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. No, I learned about him in graduate school. I didn't know about William Popel until I was in my 30s. And
Yeah,
so I'm like, whoa, he's
yeah. I was present for for him making some of his most important work. Like he's got this one painting that's it's a picture of Malcolm X. Like Malcolm X has this photograph that was like his what do you call it? When you get locked up, the
oh, mugshot.
mugshot. So it's a picture of a mugshot of Malcolm X when he was like 16, 17.
Hmm.
And Popel has this now famous painting. I think it might be in MoMA, like it might be hanging in MoMA right now. But like I used to go over his house all the time because he was my advisor, but he was like my mentor. He's like my big brother. So I would go over his crib because Lewiston is small, and he would always have paintings because he's a theater person, but he was like a performance artist. So he
was a
didn't.
genius.
Yeah, stone genius,
He was a
and
genius.
his way of thinking of the theater is what mine is. Like, he didn't look at what he did. Well, it actually goes back to the first question you answered, right? Like, that you asked me, rather, was Popel, who was like my brother and my mentor and my teacher, thought that the worst thing as Black folks we can do is fall into stylistic and aesthetic definitions, not just about what the art is, but about who we are, right? So Popel didn't see a distinction between being a sculptor, being a painter, being a musician, being a theater artist, being an actor. Like, he was like, he used to actually say, I make stuff. And you come see the stuff that I make in wherever the situation is that I make it.
Yeah.
And that has always been how I've tried to think of my own work. So
I love it. Yeah.
you know what I'm saying? Good.
I do. I absolutely do, because that's I when when I think about one of the hardest questions for me to answer, actually it's not that hard, but I think that my answer is unsatisfying for people, especially when you get into commercial theater, which I love and I want to be a part of. Or I seek to direct there as well as in other spaces. But when you're at a theater that is traditional and it has the traditional season, and they're like, well, what kind of a director are you? My response, like, like, what do you do? And I'm always like, what do you got? Because I can do anything. Um,
Right.
I was trained in a vaudeville aesthetic. How much time do I have? How much space do I have? What do you need? Because
Right.
if I'm here talking to you, I'm interested in the work that you do, and I want to work in that vein. But if you're asking me what kind
Right.
of director I am, I mean, straight theater meaning non-verbal theater that plays with musicals, non-traditional pieces,
Yeah.
avant-garde work. I mean, it runs the gamut. Work that has digital
Yeah.
media work that explores the connection between theater and large scale media. It's like I'm not like, oh, I like the classics. Like it's
Right.
beyond genre, because I'm looking to
Right.
explore some aspect of
Well,
myself from society, you know?
right. Well, I mean, I think, and again, back to the issue of age, I think I've gotten to a place now where I figure, because I hear exactly what you're saying, and that used to really be my answer, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I think now I'm like, hell, you make the commitment to me. And then when I get there, I'm going to make whatever I feel like making.
Mm.
You
Yeah.
know what I mean? So
Yeah.
like, I feel like I'm at a place now where it's like I'm not even answering that question no more. It's with none of them, white folks, not Black folks, commercial, not like you. And this is what I got from Popel. You want me to come into your space and make something. Now, what I make depends on where I'm at that point in my life. It might be commercial, it might be weird, it might be, I don't know. But like, I'm not even at this point participating anymore in the conversation of I'm not even answering what kind of director are you anymore. Because I've also found that it doesn't get you anything to answer that question. Like even answering it, because at the end of the day, what I found about this business is folks is going to do what they're going to do anyway.
Amen to
you know
that.
what I mean?
Yeah, I do.
You know what I'm saying?
Exactly
they're going to do what they're going to do anyway.
You're going to do what you're going to do. You're going to hire who you're going to hire.
Anyway.
So much of that is out of my hands. So the idea of trying to fit myself into something in the hope that you'll then bet on me, you might bet on me because I said the thing that.
Well, you know what? The asking of the question is, and this might be the Panther Black Arts thing in me, but the reality of the matter is, even the question is an activity of trying to make me heal. Like it don't have nothing to do with whether or not we about to do this job. The question is a heal, nigga. That's what they saying. I mean, without saying it, you know what I'm saying? Like when people ask you, like, what kind of director are you? Or what is your, like, it'll be like, that ain't how none of this works. It ain't how none of this works. Like, you hire people, particularly directors, you hire them because of their philosophy, aesthetic, and vision. And if they've got a career, it's a career you have evidence of. So if you're even asking that question, really what you're asking me to do is heal before we can have a regular conversation.
That's real.
Do you know what I'm saying? And so that's why I always pause with the question, what do I think is Black theater, right? Because I want to come back to that for a second.
Please do.
Because what do I think is Black theater? What I said earlier. Black theater is theater that Black people make, right?
Mm-hmm.
A whole lot of people make that. Black theater and theater that does not heal are two different things. You know what I'm saying?
I do.
Like, so
I do.
I try to make a Black theater that comes from a tradition of not healing. And by heal, I mean EEL. You know what I'm saying? Like,
I'm with you. Thank you for clarifying that.
Yeah, you dig what I'm saying? Like, I'm not
laying down.
I'm not bending the knee, dude.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Not playing any unnecessary power games.
And it don't make you no money. I can say from personal experience, all of that bending the knee and what do you need from them, at the end of the day, like I was saying, they end up doing what they want to do anyway. And what I learned from freedom perpetuated through my career is the most exciting things I've done, the things that have moved me the most, the things that have given me the most back. I made it with my community and with people that love me.
Okay. Speaking of that, thank you for that. Thank you for all of these gems that you're dropping. That's one of the reasons why I wanted to speak to you. I knew that if I got you on record, you would have wonderful, wonderful things happen because it's important for us to hear that from someone who's gone on before. What was I saying? No, I was saying that because you've been down the road a little bit more, you're I don't know if I consider you an elder because you're older than me, but you're not like an elder.
Yeah, no, I got you. And for directors, I started young.
Yeah. And so it's really helpful for not just myself, but people in their 20s to hear someone who's been in this business be like, yeah, you ain't got to play that game.
Yeah, you don't. And it doesn't help.
Yeah.
It doesn't help. Like playing the game, it doesn't help you get better at it. it doesn't make you more money, and it doesn't get you further ahead. Yes, sir.
Going back to community and everything that you just said that I loved, I want to talk about your relationship with kind of the newer kids on the block. And when I say newer, like we're all in our
Yeah.
30s. But the newer kids on the block in Philly, one of my favorite theater companies, Theater in the X,
Oh, yeah.
because you've made a lot of work with them. Um, I
Oh,
don't
yeah.
I don't know if you know this, but the first play, I started out at the Walnut. The first kind of 9 years of my professional life, I was at Walnut Street Theater learning
Hmm.
about commercial nonprofit theater,
Hmm.
and just being a part of that machine. But I was in the education. I was in education the entire time. The
Hmm.
first time I stepped out of education and started working kind of on my own was at Allens Lane Art Center. And the first play that I directed was Zooman and the Sign.
Ah, love that
Let me
play.
tell you about the cast I had.
Yeah.
Keith Illage was
Oh, yeah,
Victor.
Keith.
He was
Yeah,
about
talk Keith.
19 years old at the time.
Yeah.
Cash Goins was Ruben.
Yeah, the brethren.
The Zahora was the aunt.
Oh, yeah.
When I tell you Ryan Nicole Studovit
Oh,
was
yeah.
the
You had a
neighbor,
serious cast.
like that was my first professional community theater cast
Oh, yeah.
directing Zooman. So I saw that you did Zooman, you did the meeting. I don't know
Yep.
if you know Charles Dumas. He
Of
was
course.
in Philly a little bit. Okay. Charles was my mentor at Penn State.
Yeah, I knew Charles
And
well.
not only is Charles the reason why I'm still in theater, because Penn State was what it was. I went from an all
Yeah.
black neighborhood in South Philadelphia to Penn State. So the culture shock was no joke. I didn't grow up around, I tell people all the time, I didn't grow up around polite white people. We were all black and did our
Right.
thing.
Right.
But so Charles was the reason why I remained anchored there, and he's the one who connected me with the Negro Ensemble Company, like actually took me
Right.
to events. But I bring all that
Right.
up to say that Charles directed the meeting when I was at Penn State, and I played Rashad.
Right.
So you directed the meeting in Passover. So Theater of the X, for those who don't know, is an African American theater company in Philadelphia, and in the summer they put on live theater for in Malcolm X Park in North Philly. And so you're talking about community, you're talking about wanting to create with people who you know are going to be there the way that you're going to be there. Talk a little bit
Hmm.
about how you found, and of course, you're one of the ones that we were all looking to. I went to school with Walter DeShields
Hmm.
twice,
Hmm.
actually, because we went to middle school. You know, Barrett on 16th and Wharton.
Hmm.
I went to Barrett.
Hmm.
When I tell you I was black when I grew up.
No, I can dig it.
So Walter and I were in the same class at one point, and then
Yeah, that's my brother.
I didn't see him for years, and then at Penn State he popped up again, and we actually ended up being in a production of Master Harold and the Boys together. He
Yeah.
played Sam, and I played Willie.
Right.
So can you talk a little bit about how you found your way to these kind of new kids on the block, and then you did all these great productions with them?
Well, I mean, I, I didn't, I don't think it was a matter of finding. It was like I told you, when I was at Bates, that's who I was around. Ntozake, Baraka, Douglas Turner Ward, Buddy Butler, like I was around them. So in my mind, the theater is that. So that's all I've ever done. So like when Freedom closed down, I was still working in the same way with the same people. So like I was making hip hop in name, and Carlo is a hip hop artist. So
Carlo
he and I
Campbell.
met in the street making hip hop. And then he had heard that I did theater, and he was like, "Oh, will you teach me how to act?" So I used CC when Freedom closed down, and then I was the artist director in Camden at this spot, and I got cool with my sister Desi. We still been making. I actually just did a show Saturday at La Mama with her. So I say all that to say the if you are in the community, and by the community I mean you are making theater where people live at, not in a theater where they gotta go do outreach and get people to come to their theater. But if you're making theater where people live, that is the lion's share of what I've done the entire time. So anybody who is doing that, I'm always been around them. So I was with Theater in the X at inception, like at the idea when Carlo and Walt and Lanice first started talking about the idea of it. They were talking about the idea of it in my class at CEC.
Gotcha.
So I was present with them at Genesis. So it was only reasonable that, of course, I would direct for them anytime they asked me to. I don't even know how many I've directed for them. I think I'm like
You've done quite a bit.
I've done quite a bit with them, but like literally at the idea, I was with them. Like me and Los, I mean, we've walked all over Philly and New York with mixtapes and freestyling in the middle of the street and doing street theater, making hip hop. That is what I do. The times that when tape Hype Man, for example.
Yeah.
Seth Rosen is the artist director for Interact.
Yeah.
I'm not on that list of the directors they call for that. They call me for that if something goes wrong. So I think with Hype Man, I think they had a director and he either quit or there was something. And then they called me and asked me to, you know what I mean?
I do.
I'm not on the come direct at our main stage theater list. I mean, I'd love to be, but I ain't. You know what I mean? When I get called to do that, it's because something.
Something happened and
fell
they
apart.
needed a quick.
Boom.
I know that dance. I've danced that dance.
So my career, I have a career from my community. Freedom, the Black church in Philadelphia, the hip hop community centers, the prison system, the block, parks. You know what I'm saying?
I do. I know exactly.
And the biggest work I've done with my brothers and sisters. When me and Rennie Harris did Roma Jewels together, I mean, it ended up going all over the world. I think we did everywhere except for Asia. And, we got Bessie Awards and got nominated for Olivier Awards and, you know what I mean? And did the whole thing. But I did that with my brothers, though. Do you understand what I mean? I saw Rennie on South Street. He said, "Oh, man, I got this idea. Come by the spot. We're going to talk about it." And then it ended up being Roman Jewel. You see what I mean?
I do.
So, my arc, my experience hasn't been that for lack of a better word, standard theater has asked me in. Usually what my career has been is I've just made work, and at certain points the work gets large enough that they end up, usually, nobody in the theater likes to admit this, but usually it's the same way it is in any capitalist situation. Usually you start to see them come around when it makes some money.
Yep.
So now the Theater on the X is making some money. You know, when you go out there in the park, is the white theater community is everywhere.
Yeah.
But that's because it's popping. That was the same thing that happened with hip hop. It's the same thing that happened. Like it happens. It's part of what it
Exactly.
is. But I think
Absolutely.
at its core, I mean, I made work with Carlo and Walt and Laniche and all them because I was around them.
Yeah.
It turned, I was around them just because I was around them. It turned into Theater on the X. Does that make sense?
Wow. That makes perfect sense. Perfect.
Okay.
Perfect sense. And it's funny because it reminds me, if William Pope L was the biggest influence on you when you were first coming into your sense of who you are as an artist in theater, because you were already a
100%.
musician. So you've been an artist all your life, but as you're learning
Yes.
about theater, William Pope L, that's what he did. That's what
Yeah.
Ntozake Shange.
He was the largest voice in my development.
Yeah, like that's what. And can you still hear me?
I said Popel was the largest voice in my personal development as an artist.
Yeah, and that's also what Ntozake Shange did, because people when people hear her name, they think of For
Yeah.
Color Girls. She wrote a whole lot
Yeah.
of other plays. She
Oh
directed
yeah.
other work. And so,
Oh yeah.
but the world is like, well, again, like you said, For Color Girls hit and it popped. And so then you had
You're
these
breaking
large,
up, just to let you know.
thank you. Come back to it. Can you hear me?
I can hear you now. Your picture is frozen, but I can hear you.
Same thing on my end. It kind of goes on and off. Um, but yeah, like when For Color Girls hit, you begin to have all of this other interest. But then once that kind of the fever dies down, she just goes back to being a black art, not another, but a black artist again. And you're once again in contention with commercial works, works that have more resources, works that have a different kind of name power. As
Mhm.
African American artists, people are always interested in siloing us. Well, that's black art. One of the greatest examples is where I'm going off a little bit on a tangent. But
Mhm.
one of the greatest examples is Lorraine Hansberry, who's one of my personal heroes. Obviously, she died before I was born, but
Yeah.
I love the fact that I love all of the plays that I have read that she wrote. Every single one that I've read, I love.
Hmm.
And the fact that she wrote The Sign in Sidney Brewstein's Window after A Raisin in the Sun made me want to be like her, because she
Right.
was she was like, I touched on this and I'm gonna touch on that. And when you
Right.
read, because you're in school learning about this, and so you read the criticism, you read the reviews, you read what people were saying
Hmm.
at the time. And at the time, it was the white establishment that were like, why don't you just stick to black stories? This isn't a black story. Like, we don't know what to do with
Right.
this.
Right. Right.
And so the whole idea of you just got to create dope shit. The world will love it, the world won't love it, but that's why you have that community. You know who you are as an
There you go.
artist, and that's why you keep moving it, because you can't
Yeah.
plan. Like, I have seen projects blow up and go far. I've seen it happen. That's lightning in a bottle.
Right. Right.
Like, there's no way you can, well, maybe if we do this, and people, producers especially, try to figure out what the formula is, but the formula is dedicated craft.
Oh,
The
right.
formula is timing and where we are in, like, political, cultural zeitgeist shit.
Right.
And you can't train that. But what you can do, you can know your craft. You can be someone that others want to collaborate with, and you
Yeah.
can have a fire inside of you that says, I'm creating this if six people show up, I'm creating it if it ends up, on the West End. But I'm creating this.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
Right.
All right. So I did want to touch really, really quickly because we're at the end of our time. But I want to touch really, really quickly on your jazz plays. I am a jazz head. I can't
Oh yeah.
go into detail because we don't have the time, but I
Yeah.
genuinely love. I'm doing a deep dive right now of Louis Armstrong. I'm going through every Louis Armstrong album that I can find because I want to listen to everything I can find that man recorded. So that's how
Yeah.
much of a jazz head I am. So when you say that you're writing jazz plays, I get very excited. Can you
Yeah.
talk a little bit about the real book?
Okay. Well, are you a musician? Do you play an instrument?
I don't, but I sing. And I
Okay.
sang for the first half of my life. I was a singer.
Okay. So you are a musician. So
Oh,
in jazz, there is this thing called the real book. Some people call it the fake book, but it's actually called the real book. And what it is it's a one sheet melody and chord changes of the most important jazz songs in history. So that if you play a jazz instrument, you can, if you have a copy of the real book, you can sit down, somebody can call uh, Cherokee, Charlie Parker, and you can go and play it, right?
hmm
So I always had this idea that usually and this is not just about jazz, I think it's also about Black artists. The way Black artists work is spoken of in film and theater
hmm
is almost always biographical, right? Like
hmm
this happened and this happened, then he met her, then he got addicted to drugs, then he got off drugs, then he got divorced. You know what I mean?
I
And the
do.
music is like the soundtrack to the biography, which of course, I
Gotcha.
mean, I'm not dissing that. There's a million amazing things,
Yeah.
right? But the idea I had was with the real book is to write a series of plays whose attempt isn't to do biography of the artist, but the attempt is to investigate the aesthetic voice of the work. So, like, I got this one called Kinda Blue, right? That I did it at Freedom. I did it at Arena through African Continuum.
hmm
Um, and I'm about to do it in February at Passage Theater in Trenton, right? And so, Miles Davis is Kind of Blue. So the
hmm
idea in that production is there's two characters, a man and a woman. And the man represents Miles's trumpet, and the woman represents Train's horn. And each scene is each song on the record.
Gotcha.
And it's the allegory of a relationship. So on So What, which is the first song, they meet. Then they, next song, fall in love. Then they make love on the next song. Then they move in. Then there's a betrayal. Then there's forgiveness. Then they make up and end up living a happy life together. That's the arc of it.
hmm
Um, so it's not about Miles Davis. It's about the romantic, long-standing romantic arc that the record is about.
I love that.
Or like I got a new one that I just finished. Well, not just finished. I finished it a while ago. But about the Thelonious Monk's work, and it's called Liver and Onions. So like in Liver and Onions, um, Monk famously had like many personalities, and he used to wear these different hats.
Yeah.
So it's very like Brechtian. So it's each scene, just like that one, each scene is a song of his, right? Like of his discography.
I'm with you.
And it's 5 characters, all representing different sections of his life. So the characters are 5 monks. And one monk is composing, and all the other monks are in conversation with each other.
Wow.
And his wife is a dancer in it.
Wow.
Who like moves throughout. So what I attempted to do was to write language that has the rhythmic pattern of Monk's music, so that we could start. I wanted these plays to get beyond linear. Oh, he was born here, then he went there, then they went there, then they went there. But start to try to get into, as painters do, like that's what painters were doing with jazz, like Picasso and those guys. They were listening to those records and they were letting the records influence how they painted.
That's right.
And it wasn't so much, and that's what Basquiat was doing. It was like Basquiat would listen to a train or a bird record and paint based on how the record was, what the record was doing to him, as
That's right.
opposed to I listen to a train record and then I paint a picture of train.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
I
So
do.
I've written Liver and Onions, which is about Monk, Kind of Blue, which is about the album Kind of Blue, Miles's, Chasin the Bird, which is about the work of Charlie Parker and Billie Holiday in this weird little mesh. And then this one called Gwine Dig a Hole, which is a blues joint based on Lonnie Johnson.
I love it. Well, I have one request. If you ever find your way to Diz, let me know.
Oh
If you
well, Diz,
if you ever
Diz,
find
the
your way to Diz,
cat,
because that's my man. That's my man.
Diz is in Chasing the Bird.
Okay. Okay. Yeah. It's an album called "Looking for the Man," and it was a musical
Yep.
that was supposed to go to Broadway in the '60s, but it never made it. And so the album that they made is a backers audition vinyl album, and the
Right.
cast is Dizzy Gillespie. It was going to be Dizzy Gillespie's Broadway debut. So he's on it. It has Al Freeman Jr. And it has
Oh yeah.
I forget his name, but Canada Lee's son. I forget his name. And it was directed by Jose
Yes.
Ferreira. Like,
Yeah.
like, of course, and star Pat Suzuki.
Yeah.
So anyway, but I'm gonna share that with you because
No doubt.
it's one of the gems in the collection. But I want to take this time to just say thank you for sharing part of your story with me. Thank you for, making time for this.